Hey, have you ever considered rucking nearly 1,000 kilometers? Yeah, didn't think so. But you know who has? Lino from the Ruck to Remember. This is an incredible organization that is doing all kinds of good work for veterans here in Canada, and they have a Ruck the Bruce event coming up. And I think you're really going to be intrigued by what the Lino has to say and just the amazing work that this organization is up to. So stay tuned for a really cool episode and learn a lot from these folks at Ruck to Remember. Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of the Hard to Kill podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Lino from the Ruck to Remember and wanted to have a chat with him because we started chatting on Facebook and he mentioned something that just kind of like broke my mind a little bit about a ruck that he's planning to do for the Ruck to Remember. And Lino, it's a real pleasure to have you on, man. So I think we start with, how did you get started with creating Ruck to Remember? And then eventually we'll get into this crazy ruck march that you're planning. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Ruck to Remember has been around, so this will be our 9th year. So we've been around for a couple of few. So we the organization, well, let me back up a bit. So my story, I'm a civilian, flat-faced civilian, heads up. But so I was never able to join the military because I have epilepsy. So basically what happened there, and I know nobody likes to hear well, I would have joined if it weren't for, but I'm going to give you one of those stories.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, but so, I wanted to join. I was in cadets. I was doing the whole thing, turned 16. I think it was like the week after I went down to the recruiting center to go sign up, go through the process, right? Take the aptitude test, take the fit test, all that. Everything's good. Get to the medical. Going through all of the standard stuff, you're diabetic, whatever. No. Get to epilepsy. I'm like, yeah, I'm epileptic. And they're like, oh, that's not going to work. Yeah. He like puts the paper down. He's like, well, thank you for telling us, and not like trying to hide it and this. And so we went through a bunch of things. I went to go see like a neurologist and try to get them to write a letter. And anyway, I tried like 5 or 6 times and eventually they're just like, stop. It's not going to happen. Come talk to us if you're like, I think they wanted me to be medication free for like a year. And then we could have looked at it. All right. So I tried that, didn't tell my doctor, had a seizure on a bus, dislocated my shoulder. I'm like, okay, this is getting dumb. So that's not going to happen. So I talked to some friends. I had a bunch of friends who were in at the time, both in Canada and the US. And I'm like, hey, I'm really frustrated. It's something I wanted to do. I was kind of bummed. And they're like, well, there's lots of ways to serve aside from being in. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, Logan, he runs Rogue Dynamics down in the US. And he's like, here in the US, we have a bunch of, like 501c3s that do like endurance events to, raise money for veterans causes. And, why don't you look around in Canada and see what there is? Like, all right, seems fair. So I looked around and, again, this was about 10 years ago, I guess, just before we started. So, and there was nothing, right? This is like before the, what you guys call it, the veteran renaissance, right? Before everybody started stepping it up. And
thanks for using my term, man. That goes a long way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's a good term. I like it. So back before all that, right? So, but I had done some like Go Ruck events and OCRs and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, we can probably stand something up like this. So me and a couple of other folks decided the first one that we were going to do, and this is going back to 2014, we'd do the first Road to Recovery. And the first one, but aside from this year, which is our longest one, was 2K for every veteran that we lost in Afghanistan. So we went from Hamilton to Parry Sound over the course of 7 days.
Yep.
It was a good time by a certain definition. It was the first time I had ever organized an event like this. I was relatively new to rucking. I had done like practice miles and whatnot, but I was certainly not in condition to pull that off. I ended up in the hospital on like day 5.
Well, I mean, how many kilometers are you doing per day? Like, you're doing 60,
yeah, I mean, we
70?
were doing like, yeah, so we were doing, what did that work out to, like 45, I think. I just had no clue on like what would make sense for like day over day.
I just hear that and I'm like, man, even on, because you're not even on like rugged terrain. Like that's just a lot of miles.
Road march, right?
And even worse, because it's super hard, right? Your knees, your hips.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. But like we had some good dudes with us. Like I don't know if you follow Dead Reckoning Collective.
No, not tracking.
Yeah, they're like a veteran-owned like publishing house basically. So they do like war poetry and big on the intellectual side. So one of the guys there, Keith Dow, he was here in Canada at the time, so I was working with him on that ruck, and that dude, thankfully, and like some of the guys who were in finished the event. A lot of learnings for us. But that was the first one. That's where it started. We did that one to we weren't working with the Legion yet that first year. So we raised about, I have the numbers here, 25,000, I think, that first year, to help build a veterans retreat. There's a bunch of drama there that we don't necessarily need to go into. Needless to say, that retreat didn't get built. The organization we were working with wasn't super great. Why we ended up switching.
Part of the learning experience.
Yeah, one day when I'm done, retired, not doing any of this stuff anymore, I'll like write a book. But until then, we'll just leave that stuff in the closet. But yeah, we learned a bunch of stuff, including like, let's make sure we have places to sleep. Like, let's not just plan on staying in parks. Like, so we showed up at one place from like, okay, this is where we're going to set up camp for the day. And like Rib Fest was there.
Which is not a bad thing when you think about it.
No, like I mean, we got ribs, right?
We got
pretty
ribs.
good. But yeah, so but fortunately, the Legion helped us out, and they're like, hey, you can just like crash in one of our halls. We stayed at like a fire hall one night. We stayed on like the side of a highway one night. OPP like set up extra patrols to make sure our stuff didn't get stolen. They were like, this is not a great area. You shouldn't stay here. It was also where I got my nickname. Like on the team, they call me LT now. It's not flattering. It's because I got super lost the first year. So it was already a long day. It was supposed to be like 46, turned into like 60.
Yeah,
like we stopped because it was dark. And it was super awkward.
Like, guys, we're going in. Yeah, no, 5 more clicks. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Been 10 clicks. Been 10 clicks. I don't think you're on the right. They're in there. LT.
Man, it was extra bad. Like because we had a charity up with us from the States called Warrior 360. Great 501c3, do work down there, headed up by a guy named Captain Little. And but like they're all amputees from the war, right? So we got like 12 guys. Their joke was like there's 12 of us with 6 legs between us. Like and they're like pounding pavement. These guys are hard chargers, right? But it's like 60K. Right? And like one of them, I think it was Earl Granville, gets to the end of it where he finally decides to stop, and there's like no quitting that guy. I think he used to be a ranger. So I don't know if you retired from Rangers if one of those things, but he was a ranger. And like he just collapsed behind the car. He's like, I'm done. We got to stop here, which was fine. That's where we were stopping. But I felt terrible. I felt absolutely terrible. But anyway, so all that to say, the first year was a bit of a gong show, but we got it sorted out. And we saw that there was a need and an interest for people, right? We were carrying bricks that year that had like the names and the rank and the hometown of everybody that died in Afghanistan. Use that to build a wall up in the Legion Perry Sound. And we're like, hey, well, we can keep on doing this. Let's figure out a better cause, and let's get a little organized and see what we can do. So the next year, 2015, was like the first of like the properly organized annual events. Did a bit of a rebrand and started working with the Legion formally in 2015. So from 2015 on, we did 2K for every veteran or first responder we lost the year before. So usually that's around 70 to 80 a year that we lost that we can keep track of. So it's about 150, 160K every year. Do it across 4 days, so about 40K a day. Legion works with us. They put us up every night. They feed us every night, feed us every morning. And we raise funds for a program called Operation Leave the Streets Behind. So Operation Leave the Streets Behind is a charitable program whose sole purpose is to get and keep veterans off the streets. So it's not just like Band-Aid solutions, but they're doing things like paying first and last month's rent, putting together, apartment packages for, guys who just transitioned off. If somebody's like gone through a messy split up, now it looks like they're going to get evicted, they step in to make sure that doesn't happen. Great program. They last month they just crossed the 1,000 mark for people helped.
Wow.
Yeah, they do fantastic work. They were really transparent with us, which was really important after the first year. So like they sent us a list of no names, but like all the people that are helped, what communities they were in, so I remember the first time I got that read. I'm from Hamilton. And the first time I got that event, there was 47 people in Hamilton, 47 vets that they had identified as veterans, that the homeless veterans that they had helped. And that just crushed me. Like, because independent of this stuff, I'm out every weekend helping homeless folks, right? Like just feeding them meals or doing whatever we can.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how many times did I miss it? I don't, you don't know what questions to ask. And
Yeah.
so, there was a lot of learnings on that piece too. So like one of the things that, we didn't know, not to get onto a huge tangent about veteran homelessness, but I mean, we can if you want. Um, we ran into problems when you're doing like street outreach stuff, right? Asking if somebody was a veteran, right? So what does that mean? So like, we kind of basically know what that means now, but when you're asking somebody on the streets, if you're talking to a guy who's like a Korea vet, they might say no because they think that you mean, a World War I, World War II guy. Or if
Mm.
you're talking to a guy who was, in for 10 years during the Cold War and, didn't deploy to like real theater,
Mhm.
right? He's like, well, I'm not really a veteran, right? So we had to like rephrase how we were asking the question, just stuff that we wouldn't even think about, right?
Yeah.
So all that to say, Operation Leave the Streets Behind has been a great program for helping these guys out, teaching us what we kind of need to know. And yeah, we've worked with them basically ever since. So up as of last year, we've raised about $430,000
Whoa.
for Operation Leave the Streets Behind over the 8 years that we've been working with the Legion. So our goal this year, with the with the long one that we're doing, we'll get into that after, is to basically double that. So we want to get to a cool $1 million.
Oh, that's impressive, man. That's really,
Well,
really cool.
yeah, if we do it, it'll be impressive for sure. So we'll
Yeah, no
see.
kidding. That is that is like true. Like knowing, having run events myself and trying to raise money, like it's a tall order, right? There's so
Mhm.
much attention being grabbed by so many different organizations at all times now. It's not like back even like 10 years ago, there wasn't nearly as much going on, especially in your social media feeds. And it's like, okay, well, where do I devote my attention? Like, where is my cause? Like we started a run for MS.
Mhm.
Like, geez, that was almost like 20 years ago now when you think about it. It's crazy. Just because one of our buddies at the unit got MS and was like, well, man, that sucks. Like, what do
Right.
we do? And it's like, okay, let's just do a 10K. And we just started doing it. And then so we still do it, and it's out of that you can really have an impact, right? And over the years we've raised thousands of dollars. And what you're doing is really impressive. You really like you've got an engine behind this and you've got a really
Right.
strong purpose, which is really cool to see. And that's what drew me to your story. So you decided to start doing the marches.
Yep.
It's grown into a bit of a bigger beast than just that. I don't think you did it justice. Like, I'm on your website.
Yeah.
It's very well done. Like, whoever's doing that is doing a good job. It's clean. I like it. I may reach out to them because I need some help. And ultimately, like, you've got good outreach on socials. So like, I guess what, like you said, you work with homeless people,
Yep.
like, so there's obviously like a guiding principle there. Like you weren't able to get in the military, you want to serve. But what's keeping the fire going? Because you said 9 years to keep anything going is difficult. So what is
Yeah.
that? What's that driving force for like you and the team to keep on going and doing these big events?
I mean, the thing that I always tell guys when we're out on the road, right, is like, no matter how bad it gets, you get to go home when it's done. So like, I don't care. Is this PG-13? Can I swear? Right.
Yeah, it's a Hard to Kill podcast. Nobody's listening.
Okay.
It's fine. You can swear all you want. It's fine.
That's not true. I listen.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
But I mean, when we're talking amongst ourselves, it's like, no matter how difficult it is, or how shitty a situation might be. Like, we've had some weird stuff happen, but it's like, fuck. Like, you just get to go home when it's done. It's 4 days. It's 5 days. It's 30 days, whatever it is, and then you're done, man. And that's it. And that's nothing. That's peanuts, right? And like, our organization is like, we got first responders, we got vets, we got civilians, and like, the commonality is that everybody just wants to serve in some capacity, right? And that's really what keeps everybody kind of going, right? Is like, we just want to like leave the world a little bit better than when we got here, and if we can do it here with some like structure and some order and some support, then that's great. If we can provide some purpose for folks and something for people to look forward to, that's amazing, right? We started the virtual version of the event a couple years ago, right? Which is really born. Actually, that one was inspired by the Ruck 4 Remembrance guys, right? I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I should get other people doing it. That's smart. That's good thinking, right?
Outsource. Clever
Outsourcing, right? It's a lot of
idea.
miles. Um, yeah, so we started like the virtual event, right? But it was the same thing, right? And you see like, let's call them repeat customers, right? Guys like Matt, he's done it every year that we've run it, right? This dude, like, so the first was it last year? I think was the first one that he did, or the year before. Like 100, it was 150K. It's not nothing, right? And this guy, like, he's doing it in between work and whatnot. So like we knock it out in 4 days because we're doing it all day, right? But I think it took him like 12 days to do the whole thing. Just like in between, get up in the morning, knock out 20K, then go finish his day, right? And that's great. It gives them a way to like be connected. We had somebody join this year who was like, man, I was just looking for something, to like tie me back into, the community because I miss it so much, right? So being able to provide that kind of stuff is really great. And, you do that and you remember to stay humble. And I mean, that's kind of a recipe for success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. There's that, that force that keeps you going, that connectedness, like you mentioned, like a lot of us just want to do something that's outside our comfort zone because we're used to doing things that are outside our comfort zone, and then we don't, and then there's that disconnect and that weird feeling of like, I should be doing something. How do I get back in? And so you're tapping into something that, especially within our community, right, is like we're used to doing hard stuff. We're used to being miserable. We're used to getting blisters on our feet. We actually enjoy it. We're like part of that subgroup of humanity that enjoys pain and enjoys suffering. And when you put it all together with the group, right, it gives you that ability to overcome and actually enjoy it, which is, part of what I miss too. Right. So it's cool that you got this platform. So let's get into is it the Bruce March? What do you call it?
Ruck the Bruce.
Ruck the Bruce. Yeah, I want to know more about this, man. This sounds like a beast. When you're describing it to me, I know it wasn't doing justice. So let's get into
so the Ruck. So this is actually, spoiler alert, I guess, for anyone who's listening to this podcast. So this is actually a warm up for what we have planned for next year. But so the Ruck the Bruce event is our most ambitious event. So we sat down and we're like, okay, we're like, spitting distance away from $500,000 raised for Operation Leave the Streets Behind, right? We we quadrupled the amount raised last year that we raised the year before. So typically we were raising around $60,000-$70,000 a year. We raised a little over $200,000 last year alone, right?
Some exponential growth going on.
Yeah,
there.
Right.
Well done.
So I'm like, okay, well, if we can just, if we can do that again, right?
A doubling of a doubling. Yeah.
Right. Then then we're really onto something, right? But if we're going to do that, we need, a bigger opportunity. A big chunk of our fundraising happens like during the days that we're physically out there, right? So we'll have, let's say 20% of the fundraising may be done by the time we step off, right? Some from people like sponsoring the event or donating online. And then once we step off, money just like floods in every night. You're getting checks for like, we got to the Legion one night and got presented a check that they had like raised in the community for like $100,000. It's like, like that just knocked the biggest check I'd ever seen in my life.
Was it a novelty check too?
It was also a novelty check.
I've never seen a novel. We made one before, but I want to see an actual one. That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
$100,000. That's a lot of money. Wow.
Right. Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, what can we do to like redouble the efforts? And we're like, okay, well, it's got to be something that's like, that's very Canadian, and is more challenging than what we have traditionally done. And it's a bit of a warm up for what we want to do next year. Okay, well, let's look at the trails, and the Bruce Trail is the obvious one. Most of us train out on the Bruce Trail anyway, because it like runs past all our places, right?
Okay, I'm like, yeah, everybody in Canada is going to be like, Dave, you're a moron. I don't know where the Bruce Trail is.
It's in Ontario. It goes from Tobermory, which is like cottage country in northern Ontario, and then it circles all the way down south to Niagara Falls, basically.
Holy moly, man, that's long.
Yeah, super long, right? 900 kilometers, in fact.
Wow.
Is the distance that we're covering. So the aim is to do that in 34 days. So the per day mileage is, about 2/3 of what we would typically do on a road march. So like about 25-30K, is kind of where we're topping out per day. It's because it's, it's uneven ground. It's a real trail. It's not like, a rail trail kind of thing.
Yeah.
So every night in it, the aside from that, the setup is the same. So there it was a big, logistical, I don't want to say nightmare, challenge, a logistical challenge, trying to sort it out in advance, getting on conference calls with all these like branch presidents and stuff. Like, okay, we're gonna stay here this night, stay here this night, stay here this night. You know, got to find chase drivers, guys to make sure we're okay. Like, what happens if somebody goes down in the middle of the Bruce? We
Yeah.
had one of the branch presidents who's like, yeah, we pull people out of the gorge like every year. Are you sure you're okay? Like, what happens if you do that? I'm like, with my rock on, probably nothing good, man. I better not fall in a gorge.
A gorge. I don't even know what a gorge, like a gorge sounds like ominous. Like it's like, oh, we're close to the gorge. It's like, I don't want to be close to the gorge. It sounds like a big,
Yeah,
like ominous.
yeah. It's like a drop off that's like filled with water
Oh
because it's
man.
Niagara Falls that you're getting towards, right? So like
Gotcha.
it's a
Gotcha.
steep
So
fall off
there's
into the
these
water.
steep fall offs into large bodies of water. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we've been planning for the past since basically November about how this is all going to go down. But it's basically, again, it's a huge just fundraising push for Operation Leave the Streets Behind, and for frankly, veteran homelessness as an issue in Canada. Period. Even now, like I said, this is our 9th year, right? Every year we're going through cities, we're talking to people, and we're saying, hey, you want to donate? This is what we're doing. They're like, we have homeless vets in Canada,
Yeah.
right? People, we don't talk about it, right? Canada is notorious for talking about how great our social safety net is, and how well we do taking care of people and making sure everybody's like needs are met. But it's like an entirely different community when you start talking about veterans, right? I remember distinctly, actually, this is a bit of a tangent, but I was sitting at a bar and just having a couple of drinks after work, and this guy's wandering around showing his ID. And he's like, hey, can you spare some change? Spare some change. And he gets to our table and it's his veteran's ID. I'm like, that's strange, right? So I started asking him, I'm like, hey man, I work with the Legion, we work with getting guys off streets. Where are you staying? We can reach out to you and find you a place and get you out of this situation. And he was like, no, he's like, I'm not really ready for that right now. He's like, I'm happy I got a place where I'm safe. It was like he was staying out in the woods somewhere. He's like, I'm just not ready to like get back to all of that.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'll take some money if you got some. So, I gave the guy some money and, bought him a drink and we had dinner and sent him on his way. But like, so it's a whole different thing, right? Because the issues that like drive these guys into, into homelessness are just different. So, and I mean, not that I like getting into politics too much, but as much as we have a great social safety net, we're just terrible when it comes to dealing with our homeless problem. Like it's just awful.
It seems like it's just like it's past the buck, and when like the root causes never really seems to be addressed. Am I off on that? Because I don't know anything about the homelessness issue.
No, you're not too far off. I mean, it's a complex problem for sure, but like with there's some stuff that's commonality. So like if we talk about male homelessness, for example, and like we have female veterans that we've gotten off the streets too. So I'm not trying to say this is like a male female thing, but predominantly we're dealing with males. They have some like drivers that lead them to that situation, which are not like popular topics to talk about, right? So it's like, look, things that lead guys to ending up homelessness is like, something happened with your career, and the order of these can change, but it's like something happened with your career, you lost your job. As a result of losing your job, you lost your relationship, your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance. Once that happened, your kids were gone. Then you got stuck on some sort of addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, what have you. And that's it. You're on the streets, right? It's like, it doesn't take much. Most people can't last more than, 5-6 months without a job before they're out.
That's it. Yeah, you're done.
That's it. Right. So, but nobody wants to talk about like, hey, like, how do we help men better deal with their issues and find value in themselves outside of just their professional success, right? Like that's not a sexy topic.
I literally just recorded that solo, just talking about an article that I was reading in the Line about honor, and the last vestiges of like honor are found in the military. And then if you live in a society that doesn't value honor, you're like, well, what do I do? And then like you lose your job. I was just talking to another guy who literally was in that situation. He lost his wife, lost his kids, lost his job, and then was living in the woods. And he was like, what's happened? Like he was like a
Right.
successful dude, wasn't a veteran, but he started a group to help men in that exact situation before it gets that far. And I just thought, yeah, it's true. Like there's no real archetype or there's no real structure around men in the sense that we can talk about our stuff in that kind of context where it's like, yeah, we're
Right.
not just a job. We're more complex than that. But it's true. Once you lose, if you lose that job, like I was on that. I wouldn't say I was on that train. We didn't go that far, but like, yeah, out of the military, I then had a career teaching, but then I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like there was just something saying like stop. Like it was just wasn't
Right.
the right fit. So I left, got another job, and then got fired within like 2 months because I was not the right fit for that specific job.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, man, you can't stay here. Like you suck at this. I'm like, yeah, I know, I do suck. And then being fired, oh man, that was awful. I've never been fired before. I was in the
Right.
military and I was a teacher. You don't get fired. It was a crushing blow. And yeah, the relationship was really hard to maintain at that point. Luckily we did, but I could see where like if let's say my wife had said like you're a loser, I'm out with the kids,
Right. That's it.
would I be here right now? I don't know.
Who
I don't
knows?
know because I hadn't started the podcast. I hadn't started the company. I hadn't really figured out like I need to work on myself in order to get
Right.
to the next level. Had I not had that structure, I think, yeah, I could see why that could easily be the kind of logical end state, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, so there's another variable that like hits guys that are coming out of the military too, right? Which is very much related to the professional piece, And I have this conversation with civilians a lot. A lot of the conversation I like to have is about bridging that gap between civilians and military, right? Because there's a gulf there that is not easily understood, but you know, they come back from whatever conflict they're in, right? And like we're reading the newspaper and we hear some like whatever, some jerk off, opining about how he thinks the war is just about, oil or whatever the hell his opinion is, right? And to us, we're like, this guy's an idiot, and we throw it away, right? But like we didn't lose friends over there. We don't
Mhm.
have like an emotional attachment. We don't have like anything in the back of our brain where it's like I was over there and we did things and this is a large part of my life. And now you're telling me that this was all for like these stupid reasons. We don't carry that around, right? So we like as civilians often make these comments that are just like brutally insensitive, right? And brutally damaging. And we just act like it's like, it's just okay. It's just another conversation we're having. It's like, no, man, no, it's really not. Like, this is the kind of thing that really like hurts people. And most guys are probably going to be okay. Like whatever, that guy's just a tool and move on with their life. But some guys, again, maybe they've already taken one or two body hits in terms of, their self-worth and, transitioning back into, civilian life. And then they're like, well, this guy thinks I'm an asshole. This guy thinks my friend died for no reason. Like, what the fuck am I even doing here?
Yeah.
And
And it contributes that whole feeling like, well, what we did was useless, but also we don't belong in this society anymore. Like
right,
we're not valued members. Like we were used, and now it's you get that feeling of victimhood, which is like something that I fight against, and I try to help anybody that's in that spot. Like don't make yourself the victim because it's easy to fall into that, right? It's like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, like everything that we see around us they don't like I said it before, like nobody cares that we went to fight the war, man. Like the war's over, it's 12 years ago. Like move on with it. Like you've got to accept that as a
right,
troop. Like it's important, it's part of our history, it's part of our there are people that give a shit, don't get me wrong, but like in the grand scheme of things, like very few people went, and it was like a blip basically. Even though it was Canada's longest war, it was just a blip in history. And so
right,
you got to put that in context a little bit. And that as much as that sucks, and that's where like this past year I've kind of I think I've come to grips with it. Seeing what happened in Afghanistan, seeing our lack of, response and stuff like that, it was hard. Like it was super hard on me because for those exact reasons, like, man, I lost friends there, man. Like we still have these Afghans that I considered just like my, buddies that I was deployed with on the same level. They're stuck there. I want them here. Do
right,
something. And it wasn't happening. So I can see, if you don't have a good structure, these this negative self-talk that can be just like crushing you, constantly telling you like, yeah, nobody wants you, get out, get out, get out. Could end up being pretty damaging and end up on the streets. So it's awesome what you're
yeah,
doing, man. I'm always curious too, like, how do you approach if you have somebody on the street, like you're not just going to say, hey, are you a veteran? Like what, like, how do you even, you just you talk to the network that you build around to say like, hey, actually he mentioned that like he served like a few years ago, and then you broach that conversation, because it doesn't seem like something that you just open up with like, hey man, you a veteran? Okay, peace, see ya. Like, how do you how do you do
Nope,
that?
nope, nope.
No,
Yeah.
no,
All right.
anybody? Okay, cool, come with me.
Yeah, I mean, so it's that piece is multifaceted. So one piece is working with shelters, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that the Legion does really well, and they don't talk about enough because their marketing is not as good as it could be, I guess, but is the like real time intervention piece, right? So for example, I'll be out on a weekend. This happened like last summer. So this one was a little obvious for me. So I was walking and I'd seen this guy around the city. He was always wearing a uniform, right? And I'm like, I don't know. This could just be some guy,
Yeah,
putting on surplus
surplus.
stuff. Could be real. I don't know. So, sitting down talking to him and, making sure he has what he needs. I'm like, hey man, where you staying? And, I'm just, he's at the Sally Ann. So I'm like, all right, cool. So just go over there and be like, hey, I ran to this guy at the Sally Ann, I'm Lino, this is who I am. We have some outreach programs for veterans. I don't know if he's actually one or not. Do you know what his story is? Right. And then they usually have a good idea. It's like, yeah, we're not sure, but this is what he said, and then like the service officers from the Legion can reach out to the shelter and be like, hey, we're going to come down on this date and talk to the guy. Do you know if he's going to be around? And like, yeah, and they'll collect whatever information we can. If it's less obvious, sometimes you can look for kind of telltale signs, right? So like some tattoos give it away. Like you can have a pretty like easy conversation about it because we're like, if we're out, like we'll help everybody, right? It doesn't matter if they're a vet or not. Like when we're out on the weekends, but if we see somebody who like might be, we'll be like, you just kind of hint at it, right? It'd be like, hey man, were you in there before? Or, because like sometimes you just like have a look about you, or like you walk a certain way, or like
You say something that's like a telltale
right.
sign. You might talk to somebody with a knife hand. That's like, listen. It's like, whoa. I've only seen that one other
One
place.
right?
Nobody does this.
Yeah, I mean, so you look for small things, right? And like I said, I was shocked to see how many there actually were. So like I certainly don't hit the nail on the head all the time, but you just I don't want to make it sound like a whatever thing, but like when you're around the community enough, you just kind of like know what you're looking for, right? And like there's just a certain like attitude and a way that people carry themselves where you can be like, you're having a conversation. Anything else you need? No, man. Be like, hey, random question. Like, did you serve? Because like, X, Y, and Z, you just like name off the stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, And usually when it's like real, it's like always downplayed, right? It's like, oh yeah, I was in for like 8 or 9 years, but not a big deal, right? But like sometimes we get guys who like walk up to us and they're like, "Hey man, I was like a lieutenant sergeant in the super secret." Like come on, buddy. Like,
Yeah, work on your game next time.
yeah, it's
Go
not.
yeah.
I mean, meth's a hell of a drug, but that's not going to mess you up that bad.
Gotcha.
Like we do a formal one, the Ruck for the Homeless in December. That's like explicitly just for veterans. And like that's a bit of a different thing. So we'll like try to prep in advance, and we have backpacks that we get from the Legion that are just for vets if we find them. But on the day-to-day stuff, like we just do our best to try to ask the right questions and know what we're looking for.
Right on. That's awesome, man. Okay, so to summarize, you've got the Ruck the Bruce coming up.
Mm-hmm.
When is that? When is that again?
Yeah, so we step off July 5th. We're aiming to finish by August 8th. We should have, if people are interested in participating in that whole thing, A, God bless you. B, please don't make it your first ruck. And C, if A and B or if you pass A and B, then message us on Instagram and we can talk and get you sorted out. Or if you just want to come up for the weekend or whatnot, we can get that arranged too. Happy to have company. If we have a virtual version for the 900K, you can register on our Instagram account. Instagram is at ruck_to_remember. So either message us there or just go to our bio. The link's there to register. Basically, the way it works for the virtual one is you have 180 days from the time that you register to complete 900 kilometers. And the minimum weight that you need to carry is 35 pounds. So basically 5K a day. 5K a day doesn't sound like much until you miss a day.
Until you're like, oh, I got 10 to, oh man, I got 15 now. That's a really long ruck march.
Yeah. And then if you finish that, let me see if I can just get this out. So if you finish that, then you can earn one of these fancy challenge
Ooh,
coins. They're individually numbered.
very cool.
And they are also the only challenge coin that has the Legion's official crest on it.
Oh, right on. Very cool.
Um, so that's up for grabs. But again, you have to finish the 900K. So go there, register. You track your miles every day on the website.
I was going to ask, how do you track that? So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an honor system, right? So like you log on, there's like an entry for each day.
You're not sending in like Garmin data or anything like that.
No. I mean, if you want to carry around like a pocket full of shame, then that's on you, man.
That's on you, man. If you
Yeah.
really want to go down that route and put in all that effort for all that time. Yeah, that's a few pockets full of shame. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's I didn't think we needed anything addition to that.
No.
And then the last thing that's worth mentioning is we also do something called Coffee with Comrades every month. So Coffee with Comrades is both a local and a virtual event. It happens. This next one is on Monday, I think. Actually, it's usually the last or second last Monday of the month. Invite goes out again. Links on our Instagram. If you're in like the Hamilton area, roundabouts where you can drive, it's at the Battlefield Legion. So we have a speaker come down. We're having a brainstorming session actually, because this will be 6 months that we've been running this. So we're going to look at, where we're going to take it. But so we'll have a speaker come down. Speaker is published live on Instagram. We stream the event. And they'll talk about, therapies that are available for veterans or services that are available to them. We had wounded warriors come down one time. Might have people come down to have cool stories. Jody Minnick came and talked. So they give a presentation that's streamed online, usually about half hour, 45 minutes. Then we take it offline. Arrowhead Coffee is there. So free coffee, come out, drink, nice. Hang out. A chance to have some like fellowship with the rest of your veterans. It's only veterans and first responders, which includes, wow, go Lino. Like you say, prison guards, but that's not the term I'm looking for.
No,
corrections officers.
Corrections officers, yeah.
Yeah, and corrections officers that are invited. So only service people. No charge. You come, coffee's free. We feed you. St. James provides all the food. Then we have a round table with whoever the speaker is. You have a chance to ask some questions, have some conversation, hang out for about an hour, hour and a half, and we head home. So got some big speakers in the pipeline for next month. Not really ready to announce those yet, but should be exciting. We got a trained hostage negotiator who's worked with Caesar before, who's going to come down and talk.
Cool.
Yeah, some very cool stuff that we've been working with. And yeah, so that's the other piece that we do. We do that in combination with Dave Ward from Bush Wookie and Lean from Arrowhead Coffee. Mm-hmm. And we recently added a couple of other members to the committee. So Aaron Dale and Jeremy Burns, who are Toronto police officers and retired vets as well.
Wicked.
So check that out. And I think that's in a nutshell basically what we're up to at the moment.
That's really great, man. So to donate, everything basically go through IG, go through Instagram. That's where you'll be able to basically find everything.
Yeah, all the information is in the link in our bio on Instagram if you want to go there. Yeah. We do have a GoFundMe obviously for the event. So it's just a bit.ly link. So bit.ly/road_to_recovery, sorry. So you can go there. That'll take you to the GoFundMe. But again, that link is just in our Instagram bio. So it's probably easier to go there.
Awesome.
It's tax deductible, right? It's a charity. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for corporate sponsors still. So if you run a business and that's something you're looking at doing, hit us up, let us know. It's $500. Get your logo on the flag that we carry with us while we're going through the Bruce and stays with the truck. You get shout outs from the Royal Canadian Legion, which is nice. They have a paltry 27,000 followers. So that can help. And obviously shout outs from us as well. So
very cool. Very cool. This sounds really exciting, man. Yeah,
you should come.
That 900km ruck is insane.
Yeah, man, it's going to be really good. And we've been spending some time, obviously, on like the trails proper, right? And I don't know if y'all never like rucked on a trail, like a proper trail, it's a different beast. So like my like kind of like casual pace is about like nine minutes a click, give or take. Like if I'm not moving quick. Mm-hmm. On a trail, it's like 13 and a half,
Oh yeah.
14, like just way. And like, it's fine until it's not, right? It's like you're going down this like steep hill, and I'm a pretty broad chested dude. I got like a 54-inch chest. It's like, and there's like a trail that's like, you're navigating like 12 inches of like footpath. And I'm like, yeah, half of me
easy.
is like hanging off. It's like,
Yeah, that's
no, it'll be a good time.
when you do things that are way outside your comfort zone, right? That's where you have the most growth. So it's going to be really cool to see the growth that comes out of just the participants, but just in general, like through this event in and of itself. Whenever you go big, okay, you
Yeah.
do 900-kilometer ruck, like people pay attention. As soon as he said it, I was like, 900 kilometers? Are you serious? That's crazy. Because like, just I know the amount of preparation, if you want to actually be able to do it,
Yeah.
for your body, right, is tremendous. Like you have to have very, very well hardened feet, and you don't want your, like I get chub rub, but you don't want to turn your legs into, or your thighs into like hamburger feet. So
Yeah.
yeah, or your butt crack, which is like the worst.
Oh
Like
man.
you get that ass chafing. It's just like, oh, that's why I got like, well, at least it wasn't so bad when I was younger, right? But as I'm getting a little bit older, especially during like my I was doing a few rucks there for the Ruck for Remembrance, but also
Yeah.
for triathlon stuff. Had to cream up that butt, man. Like it's just like
It's not a joke.
No, you gotta like you don't think about things like this when you're like, oh, I'm gonna go for a walk. Yeah, well, repeat that like for 10, 12, 13 days to get to, your 900 kilometers with multiple kilometers, and like you're wet, it's going to rain, get some sand in there. Yeah.
Because it's not like you can stop, right? Like we have a deadline. Like
right.
we got to be at the index by the time, because people are waiting. So
Cool.
I mean, it's not like it's raining. I guess we're not going to take the trail. No, bud. Like that's
yeah,
not an option.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool event. I'm really excited to see how it turns out for you, and any way I can help promote it and push that donation level up, I'll be glad to help. So yeah, absolutely. So folks, get on the IG, get on Instagram, go give him a like, go give him a follow, go give him a donation. And Lino, it's been a hoot having you on, man. Glad we're able to connect on social media, man. We'll have to be in touch further down the road for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. Well, folks, as always, don't forget, train hard, fight easy. See you on the next episode. Peace. Stop recording.